Then I pushed myself even further, and the boat after that was a one-off skiff that looked production.
Mm-hmm.
So I made homemade molds for the deck. I still cold molded the hull and cold molded the cockpit, but I actually pulled parts out of a homemade deck that I built, out of a homemade mold.
Yeah.
And I had the gutter systems for the hatches machined out.
Yeah.
Like drew them up, had my buddy work at a cabinet shop that, we talked about 5-axis today.
Yeah.
Well, those were, 3-axis, router that routed those out, made my own hatch molds, pulled parts out. And I just did it just to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember I posted that on microskiff.com, and there's guys like, dude, this is like your calling.
Yeah.
You did this on your own in your garage.
All right, guys, welcome. Everybody that's on Instagram, welcome as well. Welcome to another episode of the Skiff Wanderer podcast. Today I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Brian Little. If you guys don't know who Brian is, he is the owner, creator, mastermind behind Sabine Skiffs, which, real quick, I want to say thank you. I don't think I ever have, but thank you. You guys, you've been one of my big supporters since the beginning, so I really appreciate all the support from Sabine. Today we're gonna talk about a little bit about Sabine Skiff history. We're gonna talk a little about Brian's history. We're gonna talk about building skiffs, future of Sabine, and then we're gonna get a little bit into. I want to talk a little bit about some of the adventures that you've been on with the Sabines.
For sure, I think you're gonna. Or you're on your way home from an adventure.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, skiffs got to get built tomorrow, so we can't fish and some bad weather coming in. But yeah.
No,
we'll dive into those for sure.
You guys should check out the YouTube video. Brian was kind enough to take me behind the scenes and do a little filming in the rigging shop and show some of the stuff he's working on for the future of Sabine, and was able to capture that and get a video together. And I'm excited for you guys to see that. I don't think it's every day that somebody gets to see really behind the scenes of skiffs getting built.
No, every now and then a customer would come. And you'd be surprised how many skiffs that I don't meet the person until they pick their boat up.
Yeah.
Which is,
might
seem odd to some people, but yeah.
I don't think I met you till
you picked
I picked it up.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked a few times.
But it's good to have the closer clients that come in, excuse to go eat lunch and hang out.
Yeah.
And then, get to show the rig shop and then what's going on with the composite shop. And some get to see the aluminum shop, but very few people,
It's crazy how I remember when I picked mine up, it's crazy how far you guys have come. And that was, feels like yesterday, but I know, was that 2 years ago?
Yeah. Read it 2 years. And, every year it's different. You walk around the shop, or like the shop we started in, it didn't even have a bathroom when we walked into it, the first one. And, when we left and moved out, it was just, wow, there's a bathroom in the corner that we built, which was the first thing we built. But just how we set that shop up to get materials to hold equipment. And then now how we have just the rig shop, not really just our fab shop. And then, other shops that we're going to start that we'll get into. But, especially through COVID, and we're going to dive into that, and having the warehouse, way more things. And I just added a new shelf, and I didn't tell you in the shop, but I almost want to tear down where I store the push poles to do a shelving for the motors. Jeez. Just to stack them, and it's wild times that we're in, but yeah.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up.
Okay. So,
everything.
Yeah, you probably hear Fisher. She's walking around tipper-tapping.
Fisher's here with us.
So, we'll debut her face here in a little bit. But, I grew up in Columbus, Texas. My dad was a cattle rancher, did a little ranching for himself, for us, but mainly we lived out on a ranch that a family owned. Yeah. And it was like a small town. They built a house for us, me and my 3 brothers and my parents. And, we were it was just living out there, fishing, hunting when we weren't working.
Did you fish the salt a lot?
No. Growing up, it seemed like maybe one time a year we would go, and my mother loved to eat flounder, so we would go and flounder fish. But it was all bait, very few lure stuff. I did have an aunt and uncle that live on the river, Lavaca River. So we'd go visit them and go flounder gigging. That was a lot of big pastime of theirs, and then red fishing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to really lure in fly fish for saltwater fish till during and then after college.
I got you.
Yeah.
And when
a lot of bass fishing, a lot of freshwater.
Yeah, a lot of
on the ponds, freshwater fishing.
That's where I got my start. Was all freshwater, and then trips to the coast whenever we could go. And then when did you really get serious about the salt?
It wasn't. It was during college. I went to Beaumont, so halfway across Texas, away from my family. And I stayed there every summer.
Yeah.
Had a summer job and worked. And then some summers I would go to school. But every summer then I was fishing piers, lighted piers.
Oh, yeah.
My parents made a rule when I went to college that I couldn't take a boat or buy a boat because they knew, growing up, I was the guy, they're 4 boys. I was the one that took a rod and reel everywhere, no matter where. I was the fisherman.
Yeah, we were the kids in high school that used to get in trouble at lunchtime with the cops because we were trying to fish bass ponds near the school.
That was me. I mean, I just went all over that. Whether we were visiting people or whatever, I would bring my rod and reel with me. But it was the same way in college. So, but then in the summertime, you had more freedom after work, or weekends. And I fished a lot around Sabine Pass at some of the lighted piers.
Yeah.
And just walked out on the piers. And then it didn't take long to find the pattern. And then I was fishing a lot of ways that other people weren't.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you get a lot of pier fishermen or bait fishermen, right? So they'll say, cast net for shad or whatever, just, or shrimp if the bait shop was open. And then a lot of lure presentations. I found pretty quick that I started that too, just fishing with shad.
Yeah. And
then I found that I could free line shad and get a better presentation. So I was almost reeling in this free line shad. Then it went into getting jigs that looked like a free line shad.
Yeah.
And then all I did was artificial after that.
Yeah.
And then, every year, I'd stay in the area and work. And so that kind of grew. And then you meet more people that I went to college with or ran track with, and their family or themselves had boats. So sometimes they would take me, fishing. But it wasn't until I graduated college and I needed a boat.
Yeah.
That was the second thing I bought. The first thing was a motorcycle, which is the worst investment I ever made in my life. I mean, I was on the way home thinking I should have just kept this money and bought a boat. But in the grand scheme of things, because I couldn't really afford a motorcycle and I was looking at Mavericks and different other Poland skiffs, that I ended up building my own.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, I guess it was a blessing that I bought the motorcycle.
So when did you start fly fishing?
So it was the first summer out of college. 2 of my high school buddies were at A&M, and we all graduated college at the same time.
Yeah.
I guess they were on the 5-year plan too. And one of them got a job in South Padre releasing falcons on the island. So he had a job and a place to stay on South Padre in the summertime, and we all graduated college. So I videoed, and I was big in the video, and I still am, but I just don't have time now with the Skiff company. But I videoed it somewhere. I think I have that tape.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people, my wife or other people, want to see that. No, but it was a lot of fun, like driving down there, just the jokes. I mean, we weren't doing nothing stupid, but just long story short, I ended up meeting someone on that trip who was friends of my 2 high school buddies. That was their college buddies.
Yeah.
One of them introduced me to fly fishing, and one of them is one of my investors in this company.
Oh.
No joke.
Yeah.
And is still with me, a good friend of mine today. Pretty much I call him my banker and business partner, whatever. And on that trip, 2 of the guys were really into fly fishing, and you see it in high school. I wanted to buy some stuff. I wanted to get in it.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed to say it, but that's when I watched the river run through it and all that, and the whole peak happened. But where I lived was so far away from Houston, and which was the closest fly shop was Fish and Tackle Unlimited. And I remember even looking in like the Sears catalogs, and because back then it's what you did. You didn't have the internet. You looked at all these magazines, or I don't even know if Bass Pro was even in the area then, in the 80s and early 90s. But yeah, that was, so basically I couldn't afford a fly rod in high school, and I really wanted to get into it then.
Yeah.
But it was after college. Then one of the guys on that trip gave me an Orvis set. It was his. He handed me down, one of his sets. And then it's like a year later, was building first boat, and I bought my own, and I built the Texas scooter boat. It wasn't designed to pole. Mm-hmm. It was more to get us from point A to point B. Yeah. Because I was in the wintertime, I was wade fishing for big trout. That was like, I did that for 5 or 6 years. And then I fly fished in the summertime.
I got you.
So put a poling platform on this 12-foot scooter boat that poled like an inner tube. And that was the first boat I built. I did while I built that boat, I bought a bass boat to get me by. It was a 15-foot tri-hull boat with like a brand new 50 horse on it.
Yeah.
And a friend sold it to me. And so I was learning all the marshes, and this bass boat actually would draft pretty shallow, but didn't have the poling platform. You couldn't really pole it, and just trolled everywhere. And so it wasn't a good fly fishing craft. But it was called the Pro. That was the model of this 15-foot bass boat. And all my buddies, because we were in Beaumont, Cajun country, they all nicknamed it the P-Row.
The P-Row?
Because it said, P-Row. Like P-Row canoe. And so we took the P-Row all over. But I used that boat while I was building my first boat.
Yeah.
And then the first boat, when I was fishing it and I put the poling platform on it, I'm trying to pole this thing. And I was so mad at myself for not just stretching. I had the material. Mm-hmm. If that 12-foot boat, if I'd have just made it 15 to 16 foot long, it would have been a really awesome fly fishing boat. Yeah, because it could pole better. I mean, it was always shallow, but just poled in inner tubes.
So, like, what led you to build that first boat? I know you needed a boat, but like, how did you get this is how I build a boat?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough in college, civil engineering major, but there was a concrete canoe competition. Yeah, it's a nationwide competition, and I got into it about I don't even want to call it my sophomore, junior year. Let's call it my third year of college. My sophomore and a half year, Anyway, I got into that, and then my junior year, I got into a little bit more. Well, my senior year, I was president of the American Society of Civil Engineers for Lamar, and I made that my senior project. Mm-hmm. And the dean was like, Brian, if this is your senior project, like, you're going to get credit for it. You're going to, but that way you can focus on it. Yeah. And I used the same hull design that we already had that the university adopted. Or I think the team or two before us developed it. It was a good fast hull design. It turned, but I got and I lived on campus, mm-hmm. so I could go to the lab. And back then you could have this before 9/11. Yeah. They gave us a key.
So you just get in and out?
In and out of almost every room of the whole university.
Oh no!
I mean, it was cool. I mean, I was, but I wasn't doing bad stuff. But I was in the lab till midnight making mixed designs, and I was making the composite because you can't use resin. Right. It's a concrete. So your concrete is your resin. Yeah. But then during the day, on my spare time, one of my professors gave me a key to his office, which is which gave me a phone, and I would contact composite companies, so carbon fiber companies, fiberglass, all this stuff. And some of that wasn't good with concrete. Fiberglass is horrible in concrete. Mm-hmm. It causes a chemical imbalance anyway. But so polypropylene, polyethylene, all these different meshes, and I'm studying these in college. I built my own machine because all of our concrete breaking machines were too powerful to break lightweight concrete. So I took, the cylinders, because I needed this for our paper presentation, all this stuff. So you made them just like you did a concrete cylinder when you're building a house or foundation and they're doing test samples. I made a deal with the local Texas Department of Transportation. Yeah. So I'm driving to Beaumont, and I would just wave to them. They're like, all right, Brian's here again. So I'd go break my own samples. They taught me how to work this machine. Yeah. And I'd break my own samples. Well, I went kind of passed everybody previously in our university, and I made my own 1 foot by 1 foot or a square foot composite layups.
Yeah.
So this many layers of mesh or this thickness of concrete. So basically, I did all these different ones. Well, I had no way to break it. So I built my own little machine in college to measure stress and strain so I could see deflection.
Yeah.
About how many, pounds that we put. It was a fishing scale and a motor. It wasn't anything special. So it wasn't digital. So I had one guy we're at 5 pounds. And I had one guy writing it down, and I'm watching a deflection meter.
Yeah.
All right, we're deflecting point whatever. And when you graphed it, it was just perfect. And it showed where it broke.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I did all that, and that just drove me. It was fun. It wasn't the canoe part. It was coming up with my own designs or laminate schedule. I was pretty much making my own laminate schedule out of concrete, and polypropylene is what I ended up going with some carbon fiber in some of these stringers.
Yeah.
So, and I got school credit, to do that.
For doing that, yeah.
So it was fun. But then I think it was my junior or it was my senior year, because I was president of the American Society of Civil Engineers, I got to go to some cool events on the campus. And that year, this guy he was from that area, Andy Green, he developed, he started doing sailboats. He worked in the composite industry around Dallas doing aircraft stuff.
Yeah.
But he was a sailboater. So he started doing his own sailboats in like the 60s or 70s, racing sailboats. He did composite chassis. And then when he got older, got his company going, he got into making industrial parts, and then got into pultrusion machines, which is how you make fiberglass or composite like tubes.
Okay.
It's one way to make tubes and shapes and I-beams and all this stuff. And he got a big contract to make like the largest diameter composite water pipe because of corrosive industrial water. And anyway, it doesn't matter what he did, but that's what he boomed, sold his company. 20 years later, donated some money back to Lamar.
Yeah.
And started a composite lab, it's still at Lamar. They have composite engineers there. I did reach out for him for my project we're going to talk to, but I ended up using another engineer to help me with my laminate schedules. But anyway, so that, in college, I was kind of seeing that, or seeing that come into the university, but I was too late because I was leaving before the lab really started. But I met Andy, who's built sailboats.
Yeah.
So I just called him like, dude, I'm designing this boat. And I already did my own research. I knew who to call to already because of my concrete, my senior project.
Right.
Like I knew what company to call and who. So I told them what size of boat, this, and what thickness material should I use here. And they're not going to stick their neck out because they're not. Right. They don't want to be liable, but they help. Andy backed it up, said you're doing the right thing, the right thicknesses, the right densities of foam. And I built my own boat. And nothing scarier than building, I wasn't making a lot then. I was doing decent, but I just bought a bunch of material.
Yeah.
That could turn into nothing, but it worked and floated, and I fished tournaments with that little bitty. It was a 12-foot boat, but I fished Texas Trout Masters. I've taken that boat to South Padre North Padre Island. I ran from Bird Island all the way to the land cut into 9 Mile Hole by myself, and then back fishing one day in a 12-foot boat.
That's crazy.
And then all over Sabine, all that. And then I was trying to get a production company going when I was 24 years old.
So you were already trying to go full-time?
Yeah, so when I bought those materials, I went ahead and started a company.
Yeah.
So when I bought the materials, I didn't have to pay taxes, markup, and all that stuff. And so I already had an LLC going. Got set up with Parks and Wildlife with Coast Guard, had all that numbers, and I was 25 or I think 24.
That's awesome.
Hey, I thought my goal was to retire by 30.
That worked?
No, but retired by 40. But I'm working harder than I ever worked.
Yeah.
No. But so I was doing that, and that was right when, so I had this little scooter boat, and back then you had forums. You didn't have
chat rooms and forums.
Yeah, I think Too Cool might have been going. I don't even think Too Cool Fishing was going, but you didn't have Facebook. But because I was closer to Louisiana, I started going to some fly fishing clubs in Lake Charles.
Yeah.
And still friends with some of the original people I met, Ron Begno and Devin Palmetto and some other guys. And there was one Hells Bay in Lake Charles. There was a dolphin skiff, 15-foot dolphin skiff with a 40-horse Merc, like overpowered. And those are the only guys that I knew had Poland skiffs, and I knew some were in Houston or whatever from Too Cool kind of starting off and all this stuff. And they're like, dude, you need to come fish on this versus your scooters. Wait, set up for fly fishing, storing rods. And, when I built my boat, it was a scooter boat that had a pointed V, and it wasn't until I almost had it done, and a friend was like, dude, that looks like a New Water.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what a New Water is. Then I figured, I learned who, I can't get the owner of New Water right now. Tim Clancy's his name. I said I couldn't think of New Water's owner's name.
Yeah.
But that's when I learned about New Water. And at the time, I think he had the Avocet, and he just built the Curlew. I think so. Anyway. Yeah. And that's when Kevin Finn was in his business partner, I can't think of his name, started East Cape. And I'll just say it, it's when Beavertail knocked off Hells Bay. Was right when I was getting my first production molds going. And that cycle, I'm not going to get into that story because it's right when I met my wife. We were redoing a warehouse in Port Arthur, Texas. And it was just it wasn't a horrible time in my life with my wife and family, but the guy helping me get this going was he was a crook. He was just a straight up crook. So con artist, and he did some other things even after the skiff molds got to us and whatever, that it was just, I had to get away from him. Yeah. And luckily I got majority of my money back. I just lost all the sweat equity that I had. Yeah. So anyway, I was 24, 25 years old, whatever. I think 25 was like the hardest birthday I ever had because I was, my life was ruined, gone, right? Yeah, I was ruined. Anyway, but yeah, Kayla was, she helped me kind of get that warehouse and office stuff going. So we learned a lot, learned a big valuable lesson. Huge business lesson. I mean, I learned more that year with entrepreneurship and stuff. I was going to class at Lamar. Yeah. Some entrepreneurship classes and different things. And actually those guys helped me negotiate the deal to get my money back.
Oh, so, that's good.
Anyway, but so you got to fail to succeed or whatever, how people say. And right after that, I had a trailer for this first production boat and all this stuff. I had a boat in a mold. Mm-hmm. And I never got to put that boat on the water, which was kind of a blessing, but really hard. So I had this motor and some other stuff, and I was already getting vendors set up, motor vendors and all this stuff. So I just built was my first, even though I had a production poling skiff molds made. After that, I built my first poling skiff, really, that made it on the water. And it was a wooden, I had all this money and stuff tied into this. I did get some back, but I was just getting married. I was like, I'm not going to put a lot of this money into a homemade boat. Right. So I did just marine plywood, fiberglass, and polyester resin. I didn't even use epoxy. But I learned a lot in composites at that time, building those molds and building those first parts. I set out for my own sake, not like to prove this to the world. I want to see how light I could build this it was almost 19-foot Poland skiff. That was a little narrower than a Versatile. Yeah. It had a 40 horse on it. And this wooden boat was almost too light. I'm surprised it didn't break. Yeah. But to the point that the 4 years I ran it, when I got done with it, to learn more, I cut it up with a chainsaw to see if anything inside stringers broke or whatever, But I ran that boat. I repainted that boat 3 times. I ran it hard. Every boat that I've built homemade has a 3 to 5 year cycle. In my whole life, I have about a 5 year cycle of work careers, but I'm on 6 years of skiff, so we're not giving this one up yet, or selling or moving off or whatever. Yeah, but exactly, that's how I create. That's what I did. I got rid of that one and evolved into another one, which was then I pushed myself even further, and the boat after that was a one-off skiff that looked production. Mm-hmm. So I made homemade molds for the deck. I still cold molded the hull, and cold molded the cockpit, but I actually pulled parts out of a homemade deck that I built, out of a homemade mold.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I had the gutter systems for the hatches machined out.
Yeah.
Like drew them up, had my buddy work at a cabinet shop that, you know, we talked about 5 axis today.
Yeah.
Well, those were, you know, 3 axis, you know, router that routed those out, made my own hatch molds, pulled parts out. And I just did it just to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember I posted that on microskiff.com, and there's guys like, dude, this is like your calling.
Yeah.
You know, you did this on your own in your garage. Well, they didn't know I already tooled up, you know, helped tool up these production molds that
right.
you know, the company didn't make it. But so I knew a lot about tooling and making composite stuffs. But the reason I said about, or the reason I brought up the plywood boat is I learned during that time, because that's when really Hell's Bay and some of these companies were pushing different composites and Kevlars and all this stuff. And my first scooter boat it had Kevlar in it.
Yeah.
The carbons at the time were too thick. They didn't really help you out a whole lot and whatever. But I knew that it didn't matter the materials of your boat. Mm-hmm. It was how it was designed, if it had hull slap or not.
Yeah.
And at that time, I almost bought welders and built an aluminum skiff in my garage before I did the production looking one-off.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy who was willing to pay X amount of money to get that whole bay.
First.
And I just didn't take that step. I actually tried to contract it out to a builder, they're local. And then after meeting with, I said the wrong things because he was all for it.
Yeah.
Until I told him, I want you to stick with this X amount of tolerance.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to stick with that X amount of tolerance, but it scared him.
Oh.
So, I mean, I might have would have built the first one, at least had someone build it, and that's how he built Sabine.
Yeah.
I had a company build it, and we tested it, and then I got my own crew going. And I knew just it wasn't a material issue, because at that time there was people out there that were building just high-end carbon fiber, Kevlar, yada, 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 skiffs that weren't, and I could see when they were tooling these up, I'm going, dude, that's going to have hull slap.
That's,
I had so much experience at that time with hull slap and what made it and what didn't make it. Then I do my hands like this because that's riffing up the chine brake. And, Anyway, and I had all the experience at that time from screwing up and building all these boats myself. My first boat had hull slap.
Yeah.
But I didn't care because it was a scooter boat to get me to big trout, and all I was going to do was jump off and wade fish. Yeah, it was a mean of transportation.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that was kind of where when I started the production, I still titled all my boats under Ultralight Boat Works is the company today. Even though they were homemade one-offs, you know, because I had the company, I just kept it going. But you know, I knew back then I could make an aluminum boat with no hull slap. And I started the Sabine name about the time of I have little different nicknames for it, but the one-off production looking boat, 'cause I'm not going to say what I named it on the podcast. It's not really anyway. But I called it, and when I titled it, it was a Sabine Skiff.
Yeah.
In the paperwork. And then shortly after that, we went and got our dog that we found online, and we named her Sabine Lake.
Yeah.
And that was just, Sabine Lake it's still my favorite place to fish.
Yeah.
You know, it's a cool river system. It's a cool delta system with the Natchez River and Sabine River coming into it. Anyway, so that's kind of where the name came from.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I moved around with different projects. I did design civil engineering for 8 years to the point of like working for ExxonMobil, and we did calculations. Like 10% of all the calculations at Exxon have to be hand done. It was horrible. I couldn't wait to leave. But then I got into project management, which was a blessing.
Yeah.
Because my lead project manager, still a very good man and very someone I look up to today. But he taught me a lot about contracts, legal terms, you know, reading things, invoicing, and I run my company how he taught me to run our projects.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And then, that led to successful projects under him, to Kinder Morgan calling, getting an oil and gas job back home in Texas.
Yep.
And that's why we bought this house, and where we live today was not for boats or anything, but I worked for Kinder Morgan for like 6 years as a senior project manager for them. And that's when a lot of people, even this new composite project we're working on, and we're not sinking a lot of money. Let's don't say that word. We're putting a lot of money into this project. Yeah. And people are like, dude, you're not scared. And some of the projects that Kinder Morgan handed this piece of paper over to me that they did research on.
Yeah.
But they're like, all right, Brian, you got 9 months to build this XXX $1 million project, and you're the guy that's calling all the shots.
Yeah.
You're in charge if someone dies or gets hurt on this, You
just kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That job, and the job before that, the risk involved and who I was representing, the amount of money and the amount of people working on my projects is, it builds character pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I get that.
Yeah. So, but that taught me a lot of business stuff and reading contracts and all that stuff. And then, we moved here, and just, you meet this one guy, and it's a weird story, but just my neighbor, 2 houses down, he doesn't live here anymore, and he had a really awesome fab shop. He saw the production one-off that I did, and he's like, man, you gotta come look at my shop. So we rode down there one weekend, and it's an awesome shop, and they built a few work boats, and they built oil field equipment. And I told him my idea of this aluminum know-how whole slab boat, and he's like, dude, we're kind of slow. I got guys that can draw 3D, draw it up 2D. We'll draw it up 3D. We'll do takeoffs, and let's build the first one.
Try it out.
If it works, how many think you can build a year? And I told him. So he's doing the math. Of course, he had a business partner to answer to also, which is why they didn't, after it worked, the oil industry really took off. So they didn't need this 20 or 40 foot area of their shop taken up to build a boat.
Right.
When they could go make 3 to 4 times the amount of money they'd make, me
working
paying
oil
them.
field, yeah.
And that's just, that's that industry. But that was a blessing too, because then we were forced to make our own, or I got my own crew going.
Yeah.
Lease the shop and, whatever. And then it just kind of grew into Sabine Skiff, the aluminum skiff company.
Yeah.
Which has got us where we are today. And, I'm always a guy, I'm not, if you look at my personality, if you ever do a personality test, I'm the entrepreneur. I growing up, I wasn't, but I was the youngest of 4. I was a baby. Everybody did everything for me. Not because I wanted them to. They just did it because I was the little guy, know. I never fixed the tire on my bicycle. I learned how to put the chain on. But my brothers, I'd be like, man, my tire's flat. They would have it fixed before I'd go get some tools. But that's, until I got out on my own, then I realized, even in college, I always wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was a little kid. I always used to think when I was on the ranch, like I always wanted to invent something.
Yeah.
And we got stuck one time. My dad had his Willis Jeep that we'd drive around the ranch. It was our personal Jeep, but we'd go hunt with it. And one time we got stuck, and he always told us where we were. The Jeep had a winch on the front. Mm-hmm. He said, you better point that winch to either a fence post or a tree, or you're going to be stuck here a while, or you'll have to mess the Jeep up pulling around.
Yeah.
And I was like, why can't we build an anchor?
Yeah.
And I come up in my head, what if you had this little anchor to put our winch on and it pulled in? And about 2 or 3 years later, I'm still on a ranch. I don't know how old I was then. And I'm flipping through this magazine.
There's the anchor right there. And
I was like, dude, someone else had this freaking same idea. But that's how I thought. I always was like a problem solver.
Yeah.
And I always, my mind, and I get on my guys at work, like, why did you just walk by this to go get that? Or put 2 boats in at a time so you can go fuel tank, polling platform, trim test. You always have these tools out. Just go 6 foot over and do
the next one.
I try to drill it in their head, think like that.
Yeah.
Although I'm paying you by the hour. I'm trying to get this production going. Done. So that's what really intrigued me in project managing versus the design part. Mm-hmm. I love designing boats.
Yeah.
I kind of like building them and seeing them, and the production part.
Yeah, I noticed
really
that,
intrigues me more.
I noticed that today, like when we were walking through the shop.
I kept telling you, let's go to the next one.
Well, yeah, and then, no, just like, you're sitting there talking, and then you look over, and the guys are kind of looking at something, and you just immediately jump in there, and you're like, look, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be like this. We'll move it around, and I don't know, I definitely picked up on that.
Yeah, I don't like idle hands.
Yeah,
But and luckily, my fab shop guys are
cranking them out.
They're the hardest working guys that I know.
Yeah,
they're awesome. They're and the highest paid in the company. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I tell the more than I make. I tell my lead guy every year, you're still now next year or two, I might beat him, but to this day he's still the highest paid employee of the company, and he's reminded that all the time. But he works hard, and they have yet to come to a Christmas party. They have yet to take off because they want to work.
They just like building them.
Yeah. They don't use them. They don't fish them.
They don't fish them at all?
The first time, and I almost cried the first time one of them I actually did. The first time all three of them and their dad got in the boat was I saved them from a flood.
Oh, that's that video of you running up the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I drove into our shop, had about 4 foot of water in it. Luckily, they hung the welders from the ceiling.
Cool.
All the drills, everything else was underwater, but saved the welders and the water drain. We just kept building boats.
Yeah.
But we drove into the shop. I picked them up on the side of the road, and they were like, "Man, this is the first time we rode in Sabine."
No way.
And some have been working for me for 4 years. I was like, I felt bad, but they don't. You can ask them.
Yeah.
They have their own hobbies and whatever. That's also a blessing too. Anybody watching this, don't hire fishermen or hunters to work for you,
because that's what they're going to go do all the time. Oh,
duck hunters are the worst.
Yeah.
Worst employees. No, I'm just kidding.
No, one of the things you mentioned that I definitely want to attest to from someone that's fished Sabine for way too many days is, you mentioned that there's no hull slap, and that was one of the first things when I started looking at getting a skiff. Honestly, when I started looking at buying a skiff, I really only looked at Sabines because I knew with the aluminum that I could, push it a little bit.
Could do Sabine stuff.
I could do Sabine stuff. But that, I've been on a few different skiffs now, and it's still the Sabine's still the quietest one I've ever been on.
It's kind of cool. I had a son and father's son came in yesterday to buy a push pole from him, and they had another brand boat, and they started talking about the aluminum stuff, and he's like, "Well, so what are you deading it with?" I'm like, "Nothing." And he looked at me, and I'm not picking on this guy, but he looked at me like I was lying to him, and I was like, "No, it has nothing to do with foam or whatever. It's all in the shape, and it's all in hull entry and things like that."
Which still also like kind of blows my mind that like that hasn't really become an adopted industry-wide thing, that just everybody's kind of caught on to it.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I'm thanking them like, thank you.
Yeah, I know.
But no, there's so, and I spent a week with Chris Moorjohn and his wife and their sailboat in Antigua, Kayla and I, lucky enough through the internet, Facebook friends, and I was actually rebuilding a whip ray, like a 99 whip ray that we found in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's like the 67 Corvette find.
Oh,
no, I found this barn find 99 whip ray under about 6 foot of trash at this guy's house. But that boat was cursed. It had so many holes in it, so many cracks, and he Cajunized it. I mean, it was just from, the guy fly fished, but anyway. So because I was working on this Hell's Bay, and I asked Chris a few questions about the whole ID number, what year, and this transom, do I need to build it thicker or whatever? And you're about to run out of time with that. We got a minute, but so the one thing he stressed on this, he's like, "Man, I don't see how guys just haven't got this yet." And I want to name some company names right now, but I'm glad they don't have it figured out.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't. I mean, a lot of people in a lot of parts of the country, they're not worried about hull slab. They have open water. So they're building open water skiffs that are open water skiffs, and they're not worried about hull slabs. So there's more companies, and a lot of them build skiffs.
Yeah.
They're trying to build their bay boats with no hull slab, which is a great idea.
It's
awesome.
Yeah.
Excuse me, it's awesome. They should be doing that. But
you need it here.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. It's the most thing. It's annoying to just listen to.
It really is just like, when I'm on a boat, when I'm on a skiff and I start hearing it, I'm just basically thinking to myself, like, well, here goes all the redfish.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it helps fishing. It helps stealthiness, clear water, spooky fish that are already high pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's fish that are so dumb in certain places because of low pressure watercolor that it don't matter if you roll in and your grandpa's John boat
or up underneath the boat.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, when you got to watch, your pressure waves, and you have to watch all that because every boat's going to push them.
So let's talk a little bit about what you got going on.
So long term, like the carbon skiff.
Let's talk about the carbon skiff.
So,
because I'm excited about this.
So evidently, my life and my career has this 5 to 6 year term, and I'm on year 6. But now, we're not doing anything different from the aluminum boats. So we started with a versatile. The first aluminum skiff we built, we only built one that exact size.
Yeah.
And then a guy here in Texas from a friend of a friend, knew I had this boat built, and he wanted a guide he wanted a boat to guide in,
right?
Not a guide boat, but or not a guide model. But so we made that first aluminum no hull slab boat that we built with my neighbor. We widened it a little bit and we lengthened it, and we knew we were going to run more of the Tohatsu 40, 50, 60 hulls. So that bottom and side design, his had a one-off deck design. But that was based off running, the Tohatsu 40, 50, 60. At the time, didn't have the 60. And that was the versatile bottom. Had the reverse chines, everything. Ran good. And then we started production with the deck that we still have to this day.
Yep.
Changed a little bit of layout and stuff here and there, but for the most part, that first production skiff hasn't changed in 6 years. Once we had the versatile up and going, we made the micro. People want something a little simpler. Matt Lowe got the first one with the tunnel hull. Took it down south. First mic. Nope, sorry. He got the second one.
Oh.
The first one we took from Austin to the coast.
Yeah.
That was a non-tunnel, no jack plate. I rigged a jet with a homemade jack plate and a plug-in, a Warren winch plug to plug the electrical.
Yeah.
And I used a winch system you skin deer and hogs on the back of your truck that goes into your deal. So in 15 minutes, I could go from an outboard to a jet.
No way.
Solo. Yeah. If I had help, I could do it in like 5 minutes. And because you'd lift it up, you'd swing it in, grab the new motor, swing it around the other way, put it on the boat. 4 bolts with the impact.
Yeah.
And plug it in.
Good to go.
A little bit of silicone. But anyway, so that was the first one that we took from Austin to the coast. And so that was the micro. But I learned from the micro because I had oarlock risers on it, which were expensive to build. The micro had less freeboard. Basically, I was shaving weight where I could with being Sabine strong. And I always hashtag Sabine strong. I could make these boats lighter. I mean, I could easily thin down the walls, thin down the bottom. But my clients and you would just tear them up.
Yeah, we would.
I mean, they're to the point where they're almost tearing up, a 700-pound versatile hull or a 500, and they're a little less than that. I just round up. No, but the first micro was like 370. Now they're like 470, 475. Now they're like 490ish.
Yeah.
But anyway, and the versatiles are like 675 to 690 hull only, and but so we built a micro, kind of learned from that trip, wanted to row,
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I need a river skiff. No one in Texas is building a poling skiff that, because you have some cool rivers in Texas. I mean, you have the Brazos. There's Dallas that has a lot of fly fishermen. I'm not going to talk too much because I'm educating my competition of Texas market. But now you have a lot of places in Texas that have these rivers in their high populated cities.
Yeah.
But these people go to the coast.
Right.
Well, I came up with the river skiff. I haven't sold but like this many.
Yeah.
You know, but it's aluminum poling skiff is already niche. Like to me, it's not even niche. It's super niche.
Yeah.
You know, a regular poling skiff is niche. An aluminum one is like a super niche. Well, then you go put a river skiff with oars on it, and then you can go to the coast. I mean, that's like just a super niche. So anyway, so we come out with the river skiff, and I love that boat. I mean, I could take one of each boat, you know, and use them.
Yeah.
And then we just come out with the guide that I ain't had time to put on the website. I've already sold as many guides as I had river skiffs.
Oh, really?
You know, but we'll put it on the website before the Houston Fishing Show this year. But that's been a good boat. So I kind of hit everywhere. I haven't built a V-hull boat.
Yeah.
But I've had a handful of Louisiana people, Louisiana potential customers, that just want an aluminum V-hull boat. But to me, when you take, you know, aluminum is good. People call me all the time, and I'm probably the worst salesman, but the best salesman for Sabine. But if they tell me, look, I just want to be shallow in this, and I'm like, well, this is our price of our boat, and we can go shallow.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, well, why would I get aluminum versus this, you know, the other material? It's like, well, you can beat it up. You know, if you have you want your kid to take it, and you want to, you know, you're scared they're going to beat the, you know, ding the dock or hit rocks, or let's be honest, no one wants to run over oyster or whatever. No, but sometimes oyster sticks, you know, you're pulling in this much water and you have an oyster clump that's this big.
And so
that's where, you know, aluminum is better, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we built the guide model and we kind of have that going. So I don't really think a V-hull boat is in my aluminum company's foresight. Like, I almost did it one year, and I probably would only built 3 of them.
Yeah,
you know. But
I love that flat bottom.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird,
it's the slides, and it's too.
So because of the reverse chines, we don't have strakes. A lot of people are like, it's, you know, not going to turn well or whatever. And the thing that let me run it if you don't believe it. As I think me and Owen Gaylor probably, I can name a few other, you know, Richard Garner we can run these boats and really show what they can do. And all of us have been really good salesmen, but we're not doing anything different. We're not being crazy.
Yeah.
We just go and turn our boat in a bayou or whatever, and they turn, you know.
Yeah.
And then they pole straight without the poling strakes, which technically are running strakes in the boat design.
I can tell you right now,
I need to start.
That boat, like, I mean, the other thing that we got here on the Texas coast a lot is wind. Mm-hmm. And that boat will pull straight upwind, side to the wind.
We're about to talk about a lightweight carbon fiber skiff. Yeah. With that said, that's the bad part about a lightweight carbon fiber skiff.
Yeah.
The wind's going to catch that boat.
Yeah.
Our micro versus other skiffs in its size class.
Yeah.
It's heavier. It might be heavier by 150 pounds. It might be heavier by 200 pounds. If I build it down the road, which we will eventually do, it might be 200 pounds heavier than our composite micro.
Yeah.
And they catch wind more.
Yeah.
You know, they are lighter to pole on one hand or into the wind or whatever. But so there is a benefit to a little bit heavier boat. Now, because of our flat bottoms, the way our hulls are designed and the way they displace water, I think, and this is just me, it's not because I built them or designed them or whatever, but I think they're some of the best poling skiffs out there as far as tracking straight and turning and things like that. Even with their weight being the weight they are.
Yeah, I mean, with that, don't get too mad. Like I've gotten on some of those like smaller like micro skiffs and stuff, and I like I'll go and push it like I will my boat, and then almost fall off the back because the boat moves, you know, completely differently. just because of the weight,
Yeah.
and I'm used. I mean, I think honestly with the weight, like you get used to it, and
Well,
then you see what it like you said, all the benefits.
A versatile. I mean, if you look at the size of it,
Yeah.
in the class, the width, the bottom width, and the length. If you truly weighed every boat out there, I still think we're the top 25.
Oh yeah,
Or at least top half as far as weight.
yeah,
Some of them are out there a lot heavier than you think.
yeah,
And the ones that are super light, or most of them are smaller,
Yeah.
like our micro size and stuff like that. But that weight, it helps you. It helps carry, with the crosswind and things like that. But I have to build them that tough to hold together, or people would just blow them up,
yeah.
literally. Like
The other thing that I've noticed with mine that they're really well balanced. They're so
that's a
well
good,
balanced.
that's a good point, because I did not do a center of gravity study on a composite skiff,
Yeah,
or any of our skiffs, but I've built enough skiffs
that
to
you just
know.
knew.
Yeah, I mean, balancing a poling skiff is it's like there's no one what's the term I'm looking for? There's not an end all be all situation.
Yeah,
Your buddy's heavier than my buddy.
yeah,
You're heavier. You're probably not much, but a little bit heavier than me. So you kind of gotta. That's why I didn't do a center of gravity. It was like, dude, it's gonna be thrown off because XYZ guy weighs 160 pounds and his client weighs 250 or 220.
yeah,
Center of gravity study ain't gonna help anything, except we might learn that you might need to move this back or whatever. But you're gonna learn that when you pull the boat anyway.
yeah.
If you feel it can fill a boat, that cooler needs to move back 6 inches. Or hey, dude, your fly gear or the cooler you brought, soft cooler, put it on the back deck.
Yeah,
Or ma'am, don't sit on my back deck. Go sit on it. And don't sit on the front deck either. Sit right in the center of the boat. Or and that's where our guide skiffs. We've moved these coolers around enough, and we kind of know.
no, yeah,
Where our fuel tank is fixed. And we're very few companies that put the battery, even on a center console boat, in the back. But we do that because our fuel tank's so far forward.
yeah.
And
to add a little bit.
yeah, it balances.
Yeah,
But if you're 150 and your buddies are 250,
yeah,
you're SOL, bud.
Yeah.
It's switch. I mean, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
I get the question all the time, what's your boat draft? My first response is, well, how big a boy are you? Because if you're 150 or you're 250, then it's two different numbers, and it's probably an inch or more different.
yeah,
How big are you? How big are your friends? And that's just, I'm sorry, but, I don't say that to hurt your feelings. But if you're that big,
Oh yeah, it's gonna
then
make a
we
difference.
need to think about you're building your boat to go a little bit lighter and things like
Right.
that, And so, yeah, balance is one thing that, I get, there's nothing I can do about it, but you put a power pole, well, that can throw off a little bit.
Yeah. I could see
You
that,
can,
definitely.
with the boat empty and I drop it in the water to go test run, I can see it listing over. And that sucker might only weigh 15 pounds or something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Getting dry throat, talking too much. But you can compensate that. You just scoot over in your polling platform like
Yeah.
2 inches. Our polling platforms aren't tiny. A lot of people compliment on how big the top
I love
is.
how
So,
big it is up there.
and you can move around. I have this little advisory board, I call them. So a lot of guys on a group text that they get to see a lot of things no one else sees and hears, and get questions asked almost daily. Should I do this? What do you think? And I was about to ask them the other day, and I was like, well, I got so much time because we're still making molds.
Yeah.
But like, should I shrink down the Carbon's polling platform? Because the micro is smaller.
Yeah.
And we use the micro for the river because the deck's narrower.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, it would look weird.
Yeah, it'd be way out there.
So anyway, and the guide and the Versatile has the same polling platform top, and I'm
Yeah.
showing this.
Yeah.
Same size. They go this way. But do we need to narrow it? Save a little bit of weight or whatever. But that's something we'll figure that out down the road. But yeah, a lot of forethought into that, how we rig them, and
Yeah.
balance wise.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. All right, so we
What
got a
else
little in the weeds. This carbon boat that you're building.
Yeah. So
It's like a dream of yours, right?
yeah. So I've been working on this technically since I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Back then, carbon was available, but the thicknesses and the weights that we need to make these boats now, they weren't really that available back then, at least that I found. So making a carbon fiber, carbon fiber skiff 25 years ago, pretty much would have weighed close to the same weight as a fiberglass boat because of thicknesses of materials. Now, I'm sure you could have found some. Unidirectionals were there. There's harder to get. But today, about 2 or 3 years, the aluminum skiff market and our production we were there. We were about as big as I wanted to take it with the crew we had, because to go an extra step was like so much more bigger shop,
right,
or bigger headache. I was like, let's just plane this one out. We'll grow the company by starting a composite division.
Yeah.
And I was going to do a fiberglass boat. I mean, I'm confident, even with the carbon fiber hull design that we have now, and I'm just going to call it the carbon fiber boat because it will be. But it would only be like 550 pound boat, under 600 pounds.
Right.
But then if you can use some carbon fiber in some places to take away some weight, you could maybe shrink that down. Well, then I talked to a lot of my customers, and they're like, dude, you're already there with Sabine. You're already a high-end aluminum boat, let's be honest. But you do some of the best rigging. You do all the right stuff. Let's just go there.
Just keep going high.
Let's just go to the best materials we can.
Yeah. Why not?
That's when I decided, let's just use epoxy. Let's go full carbon fiber, no fiberglass in the boat, and let's just do everything we can do. Yeah, just go all the way.
Go all the way in.
Is it going to cost another 10, 20 grand more? Probably. So,
yeah.
But when I told that to my customers, all they said was, okay.
Yeah.
I don't care. And it sucks. It sucks because the cost part of it, I don't keep wanting to use that word, but the cost part of it isn't cool because if I didn't build these boats, I couldn't afford them.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was with Kinder Morgan, I could have.
Yeah.
But even it kind of hurt me back when I was 25 because I was building these pretty much going to be some high-end poling skiffs that I couldn't even afford at the time. So it's kind of the catch-22 of taking it to that extreme.
Yeah.
But even with my client suggestions, and some of my vendors and friends are just like, just do it. Just go the extra step, stay on top, with your game and with your company. And
no, I mean that's like I'll get asked a lot by guys, like, they'll ask me how much my skiff costs, and they'll be like, oh, well, I can go buy this other ones. Right. And I'll be like, well, you're gonna get exactly what you pay for.
Yeah. And I went down that this weekend with a gentleman I hunted with, and it is what it is. I'm not getting rich making these boats.
Yeah.
I'm not rich to begin with. My parents aren't rich. I graduated college, and my starting salary that year was more than both of my parents made together that same year. So I'm not a rich family. I don't have trust fund. I don't have any money. All the money I've made in my life, I've made it.
Yeah.
So with that said, anyway, that's just where I want to go with it. And I'm not overcharging. My point is, I'm not overcharging for this. My margins aren't just stupid.
No.
I still have to sell in-house. I can't even do dealerships because I can't afford that markup from a dealership. So it's a lot of labor in our aluminum boats. The materials cost way more than most people think. Way more than I call them Arkansas John boats that, come off a big spool of aluminum, and then they form them and
pressed. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot of love in each boat. There's grind marks and there's sand marks on it. You're gonna have to deal with it, but we have to do certain things to get this boat to shape, the shape it takes to have no hull slap. And then that's when we took the rigging to the next level.
Yeah.
Because you already had to charge that much, and then the painting to the next level, then the trailers. You have to do that, in my opinion, to make money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I made whatever 5-10 grand, or could charge 5 to 10 grand less, I'm just a hobby.
Yeah,
you know?
I get you.
So
Yeah.
I had to do the best rigging and all that in my aluminum boats,
Right.
which then is going to go into the carbon fiber kind of part of division of the company.
I can't wait for those things.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to comment on, that I tell people when they ask me about them is, you know, you're talking a little bit about the love and dedication that goes into all these skiffs, and that's
Keep going.
one of the things that I've noticed is you build these things exactly how each customer needs them, and then you've got the insight too to, you know when it's like, hey, I understand what you want, but that's not, you know, that's not going to work.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
We're not. So, you know, I have a couple golden rules. The first golden rule of Sabine Skiffs: no Sabine Skiff will ever be painted yellow. I've heard. There's one customer, he said, Brian, he could say, I want a yellow boat. I was like, sir, I'm sorry. And it was probably after he gave his deposit.
Yeah.
I don't remember. If it's before, I still tell him. I don't care. But I'm like, we will not do a yellow boat. He's like, I have a custom yellow boat, and I want this to match. And I was like, okay, if you have a 61-foot Viking that this is going to go on, we're probably going to paint the Sabine Skiff yellow. That's like probably bending the rules, or, you know, you know, if you're a celebrity or someone and I get to go hang out with you, might paint your boat yellow, but probably not, you know. But what's the Margaritaville, the singer? I'm going blank on that.
Jimmy Buffett.
If you're Jimmy Buffett, we might paint your Sabine yellow. I don't know, but no, just kidding. We won't paint us Jimmy Buffett Sabine yellow either. But there's some things where you have to cut people off because it's going outside of either being a bowling skiff or you know, outside of my design criterias. You know, I don't float boxes, horrible, you know. Anyway,
no, I just think that
things like that I won't do.
I just think it's really cool that, like, you know, so many of those skiffs out there are just, you get what you get, and these things are
the carbon skiff
custom.
because it's out of mold.
Yeah, right.
That's the bad part is, you know, you're gonna have a choice of consoles. Yeah, it's about in some colors, you know, but we can't go, you know, unless you want to pay for a one-off whatever. Yeah, a deck. You know, I'll take your $50,000 and we'll go build you a one-off deck, and, you know, go do what you want to do. But with aluminum, that's what is cool. You know, the startup wasn't a lot. Yeah, because you had the welder and some dudes, you know. Yeah, but then when you jigged it out and, you know, there was some things, there's a lot of stuff to figure out. Yeah. But to get as efficient as we are today, but yeah, that's really what's fun with aluminum is how quick me and Brandon, my lead shop guy, I can draw everything up on CAD, take it to him, and literally whatever, let's just say 2 weeks. Yeah, a week. It's more like 2 to 3. Let's just say 2 to 3 weeks. Me and him can have a brand new design out like that quick. Where in composites, you're not gonna, even cold molding something's not gonna. It's because of cure times and whatever. You have to wait. Yeah, you walked me through that a little bit today. It's so fun to. It's fun to deal with my customers. You know, I want this console to do a certain thing for my kids or this, and storage, and some storage things we'll do. Well, another golden rule: we don't do live wells. And every time I ask someone, they're like, I want a live well in my boat. I'm like, okay, what for? Well, I take my grandkid fishing, or I take my son fishing a few times a year. Yeah. Because, anyway, and I was like, okay, so there's 52 weeks in a year. 3 or 4 of those are holidays, birthdays, and family events, maybe 6 of them. Yeah. So you fish one time a month, 2, you know, you start doing this math. I was like, so basically what I'm getting at is how often do you take your son
do you need that thing
with, or whatever, you know, whoever it is with shrimp? And they're like, well, how'd you think about it? I don't know. Last year I did it 3 times. Yeah. Like, just take a bucket. Why pay for it?
One of those little battery powered aerators on the side. Exactly. Good to go.
Why pay for it? Why carry it when you don't need it? Right. That's why we make all our trolling motors removable and batteries removable. Yeah. If you're not, you need it, leave that junk at home and not junk. I like a trolling motor every now and then for jacks and
no,
night. We might go night fishing tonight. We're going to be using trolling motor down the canals.
Trust me, I've been thinking about a little bit about talking to you about putting one on mine so I can do a little bit more.
Well, at night, and there's certain circumstances. We talked about tarpon and different stuff where you live in other areas of Texas that it's good to have that propulsion. But anyway, I digress. About the live well, the carbon won't have it. We will never have one. Yeah. And I don't put them in our aluminum boats. And I'm not being rude to the bait fishermen. I'm not some uppity fly fisherman guy. It's just that these days with lures and our clientele, and I get it, you want to take your kid or yourself out or whatever and throw whatever bait you want to throw, but when you really talk to them, they don't use it that much. Or tournament, like, I'm going to use this, I'm going to tournament fish with my Versatile. But they have, 2 or 3 other boats or another boat. I'm like, so how many times are you really going to fish? Once. Like, just put a cooler in there with, oxygen to keep your redfish alive and whatever. So,
Yeah, so you're talking a little bit about how efficient your shop is, and I mean I saw it firsthand today, definitely walking through there. But you started having some issues, right?
Yeah, well,
but not really shop related so much.
Yeah, we're gonna get into Texas freeze. Yeah. Do you remember the date? It was like
I wasn't here.
So we had a freeze last year. We got into year 2 of COVID.
Yep.
Year 1 of COVID, the only delays was everybody was at home because no one knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And then people started getting sick. Then you had work delays, right? But so we just finished 21. Yeah. So 2020, I don't even know when COVID started. In 2020, during COVID, the only delays I had were customers putting their deposit down. And they were only delayed, like they wanted the boat, they had the money, but they're like, I don't know if my job's going to shut down. I don't know. And some of them were doctors. They're like, I don't know if I'm going to get sick and I can't work. So it was more delays on that. Then once about the 2nd or 3rd month of COVID hit, everybody, they either got sick or they didn't get sick, or everybody's kind of learning about it. And sales were made. And then you stepped into, well, you can't go out of the country. You can't do this. So everybody's spending money in the U.S., which is really cool for the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
Whether you build boats or whatever. But everybody started hunting, fishing, camping, not working, all this stuff.
Oh, no.
And so everybody flooded to the marine industry, the camping industry. It's just outdoor industry.
Right.
And because you really couldn't do much anything else. And so it's good, but it drew a lot of assets away that we normally were easy to buy.
Yeah.
Everybody's busy.
Yep.
You had the government paying people for whatever reason, but most people could make, the labor force could make more money sitting at home getting paid by the government than they could at work.
Yeah, I saw it in my field.
I'm just going to say it, and it's true. And a lot of my vendors, we're behind from the carbon because they lost a lot of, we're looking to see if Kayla's giving an eyeball.
Yeah, she started looking over here.
And I mean, it is what it is. But a lot of my vendors were losing employees.
Yeah.
Couldn't get work done. Now, none of my employees left. We're building as fast as we can go. And, but then we hit the freeze last year, and then your big COVID delays, I think, came in 2022 because of 2021 and sickness and the handout, whatever it is, COVID relief. You had factories worldwide were either shut down like months at a time, sometimes a month because of COVID.
Yeah.
Someone got sick, they would just shut the whole place down.
Right.
Or whatever. And overseas, a lot of our marine stainless steel pop-up cleats and stuff like that, it's made overseas. Some outboard motors, or majority of them, other than some Mercuries or some of them, Mercuries are still made in the U.S. Some are overseas. But, you started having those issues. But then you had the Texas freeze. The Texas freeze hurt me with raw aluminum because the raw aluminum was actually made in the U.S. The plate and stuff,
right.
Foundries and everything else was getting shut down. Not only was the aluminum getting hurt, then all your refineries that made either resin materials or plastic materials So your, plastic companies started getting behind resin, chip, anyway. And then the ports,
they're all,
California ports still, having some issues. But all of that it made 2022 so hard to build a skiff. I hated life for
2021, you mean?
Yes,
Last
sorry.
year.
We're 2020. Yeah,
we just got
2021.
this
Sorry. The delays, all the COVID from 2020 kind of it boomed in 22.
Right.
The bomb went off, in 2021.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
To make it so hard to build a boat, third and fourth quarter last year, material prices were going up. Everything was going up. All my vendors have went up 15 to 100%. And it's just crazy. But every time it happened, I either have to call my customers, and I could forecast, because I just did that with project management. I can forecast anything. I can always have a long lead item. But there was items that I could buy on Monday and have on Wednesday that
you couldn't.
It took 8 weeks to get that guy or that item or whatever. So, the longest delay I had on getting a boat delivered, I think, was because of maroon pigment, because of the red.
Yeah.
It delayed a customer's boat like 8 weeks. Just the powder coat.
So you couldn't get
and
it.
And then, then it went to pop-up cleats, then it went to Yeti coolers, then it went to motors, and it went to everything, aluminum, jack plates, the power poles.
Everything.
And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't frustrating because I couldn't manage it. It was frustrating because my vendors couldn't manage it, and they have so many customers, they could not notify me that, hey, this, used to be a 4-week lead time, it's now 12 or 20.
So you weren't getting a heads up that you needed to start planning ahead.
So you can't, because I'm sold out. Let's just say I had a year backlog.
Yeah.
Well, then that's what I started doing. Tohatsu has about whatever, let's just say a year. They don't have a year, but whatever year order of motors.
Yeah.
This month I need these two. This month I need these two. And then they had some issues. So then I had to notify those customers. Well, we punted and went to some Mercuries. And that's not fun when you're having, my time is spent while I'm getting this carbon project going.
Yeah.
My valuable time that, was just running this company was spent managing issues and warehousing stuff. I warehouse way more stuff now than I used to. I mean, you saw how much motors we have, how many motors we have, and parts and stuff that you could order them on Monday and I'd have them on Thursday, or order them on Monday one week, have it on Tuesday the next week.
No, I remember when I picked my Skiff up. It was May or June of 2020, I think. And that workshop definitely looked a lot different back then than it does now. And like I said, we shot a video today and we walked through, and it's just, you got parts all over the place.
It's
organized.
If it was easy, let me be honest, I'd be bored.
Right.
But it's made it challenging. It has made it fun. But every company that I dealt with, and some companies are just now having their delays. Recently, after all these months,
they're just now.
Yeah, they're just now seeing it. So it's just a new thing, to the point of, some of these major parts that I have on my boats, pre-drilled, things I've used for the past 6 years, and they're telling me we might not be able to get these to you indefinitely. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's not something you want to hear.
And every time, so my aluminum vendors, I have such a good, one thing I wanted to mention with you and other people listening, other entrepreneurs or business owners or future business owners, something you could learn from all of this is, you still hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is, even procurement managers out there, if you're listening, I always went round and round with those in Kinder Morgan, because they made us bid, 3 things.
Yeah.
3 companies, to buy this, and that's good to keep everybody honest, right? But you better have preferred vendors, and you better have relationships with all them guys you're using. Because right now there's some sales reps, major companies. These are worldwide companies, and I text their personal number, but I have that relationship with them, and they keep my
getting
order on their wall of their office. And I just did that over time. So, I built that relationship over time.
Right.
But if I didn't have that relationship, they'd probably tell me, pound sand.
Who are you? Yeah.
And I either punt to a less valuable or less productive outboard or jack plate or whatever part, aluminum or whatever. And then my product starts losing its,
Yeah.
whatever. It's what am I looking for?
Value.
Performance
Gotcha.
or value or whatever, But yeah, having those good vendors not in your back pocket, but that you're always using.
That you're always talking
and
to.
And get them preferred vendors set up, procurement managers.
Yeah.
And keep them happy,
Yeah.
Not a time, imagine through all of this, if the people who are always pricks to their vendors are probably having heck getting parts right now.
Yeah.
Of anything.
No, I've seen that even in the industry that I work full time in, where we went from getting stuff fairly regularly to, I think it's been a while since some of the stuff we need. It takes a long time for us to get it.
So we haven't really dumped into the carbon skiff, but that boat, I'm losing revenue every month that it's not going.
Right.
I finally just swallowed it.
Yeah.
And it's gonna happen when it happens.
Yeah.
I have a couple excited customers that are just looking forward to it.
Yeah.
That they don't bother me, but they want, hey, well, what's the update this week?
They're ready to see it.
And then they give me a sloth emoji, Owen. Like, this is going too slow. Let's go.
You just need to put him to work. Just tell Owen he needs to get up here and start building
the dude's just excited.
I know.
Why would you not be,
Yeah.
And I am excited, but I've stopped having panic nightmares. I've stopped waking up. I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
I wake up, in the middle of the night, and I did this when I was in my projects. I dove into them so deep. I'd tell my wife, like, I'm about to start a new project. It's, and I'm in it, I live it. I wake up in the morning, I start work when I wake up.
Yeah.
Not in the shower. Now, I have taken my phone in the shower and answered emails and text messages. But from using the restroom to getting in my truck, and don't text and drive, but I always drove about an hour to work.
Yeah.
I just happened to live that far away. I loved it. I worked all the way. My admin would always go in before me.
Yeah. So
I would get her and what her day was, if it was a her or he or whatever. And I would call my construction manager or superintendent if I was working on a construction job, get him, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yes, this is what we need to be doing for production reasons. And then when I showed up to work, did that, and then I would work on my way home.
Yeah.
And I've had some of my vendors, they're like, dude, other than my wife, I talk to you more than anybody.
Yeah, but it's good to have those relationships.
And you're the first and the last guy I talk to every day. But that's how I manage my construction projects, and was fairly really successful with them. And then it's the same way with the Skiff company. Dylan or Brandon and them guys are the first ones I talk to.
Yeah.
What are you doing today or this? How'd y'all do? If I'm working on some other, in one shop to the other, or because I can't be,
everywhere.
Yeah. The shop, we have a clean rig shop, you have the dirty aluminum shop, and then we're going to have you can't put them all in one shop.
Right.
There'd be dust flying everywhere, whatever. But
all right, so we talked a little bit about building the company, building boats, carbon boats.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that, like, one of the things that really drew me to Sabine, being aluminum, being able to go pretty much wherever you want, and I think that's one of the things that you've done with your own skiffs is you guys have done some pretty cool trips. I want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, we'll have some cool ones coming up in the near future.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
that first one, what did you guys put the boat in Austin?
Yeah, so I kind of got this idea late at night.
Yeah.
That's when all the good ideas start.
Of course.
It's like, I want to do something different, a vacation, done different things and whatever. You get to that point in life, you just kind of want to do something crazy.
Yeah.
And but I want to do it in a boat, fish it in a Sabine, or not really for publicity, but that's what I did. I just fished.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a big hobby of mine. I mean, I hunted a little bit, but not as hard as I hunt now that I have Fisher. But yeah, we just built the first micro, and I come up with this idea. It was like, let's go from Austin all the way down the Colorado River and dump out, in Matagorda Bay. And I text a buddy of mine, and I was like, dude, I think this is doable. What do you think? He's like, well, if you need someone, I'll go. And I texted him because he was more into rowing at a raft and more freshwater stuff. And I knew there were some dams in the Colorado River just because where I grew up, living in Columbus. And, the ranch that my dad managed had land on the river and ran John boats up and down it. I knew of the Garwood Dam and some other stuff. So we started doing research, seeing how far north we could start, closer, how far could we get to Austin, because they have some really big dams.
Yeah.
And then what dams do we have downstream, and then how fast does a boat move, or for how many river miles is it?
Yeah.
How fast? We could only take a week off of work because we both had full-time jobs. Even though I owned Sabine and was managing it at the time, I was still working for Kinder Morgan, 40 hours a week with them.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I did that I just quit them, or stopped that 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the first 3 or 4 years, I was working part-time.
Yeah.
Or working full-time, working part-time for Sabine. And anyway, but so I would take a week off of my full-time job and take this skiff down this river, and that's when we made the jet motor. I said earlier, we did the 2 motors, and we could quick connect, and Tatsu helped me with that, and made oarlock risers for that skiff, and we dumped it in, and I forget the name, the number of the road. It's 9 something south of Lady Bird Dam, in first major road. And we could have ran upstream to the weir, but we didn't. I kind of regret that now that I know that river better, to really start as far as we could north.
Yeah.
But anyway, we started just south of Lady Bird Dam in Austin. And we had, 7 days to do this. We had a time frame. I had stops because I had, just people I knew. One of them was a high school buddy that bought land on the river, that one night we stayed with him. We made friends with the LCRA guys. They let us stay, at their camp one night, and, just different places. And, it was one of the most peaceful trips. It kind of took me back to my freshwater days because I saltwater fish so much that forced me to, for a week of freshwater fishing. Of course, horrible weather. It was freezing north of Dallas when we left, or north of Austin when we left Austin in April. And which is just, it seems like since that year, that's the climate has been like that. But so fishing was horrible because of the cold weather, and that was fun. I mean, we traveled down. We had some motor issues around Smithville with the jet. The ECU threw some codes, and the ECU just kind of fried itself. Yeah. But it was cool relationship I had with Tahatsu. I'm on the river floating with this motor that's throwing a code. Yeah. It would limp mode. It wouldn't get out of limp mode. And, I'm talking to the tech who knows, all of Tahatsu knows we're doing this trip. Yeah. And they're following us. And I say all of them, the main managers and my sales rep and all these, and LCRA guy, the head he's head of the whole river management system because they're almost like game wardens. Yeah. And he had my cell phone. I shared my location with him and my father and my wife. Yeah. My father was kind of like my driver. He had the trailers at his, at my parents' house. But if I needed him, he would come save us or whatever. Yeah. So every day he's seeing my location and whatever, and I'm building up to when we sank it, but the skiff. But yeah, I called Tahatsu and like, man, it's throwing this code, yada, yada, yada. And we tried to work through, it's like playing a Nintendo game with the key, select, start, B-A-B-A, left, right, and I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm like, it's still, unplug this, Brian, get into the cowling and do this. And we did everything we could. So we just kind of limped down, called my dad and said, tomorrow morning, meet us at Smithville Boat Ramp. We plan to sleep on one of the islands. Yeah. It's legal to sleep as long as it's an island. Yeah. And it's kind of legal to sleep on the shoreline, but it has to be mean flood and people on the Colorado River get real antsy. Yeah. So we found an island. We camped. We had a ball that night camping. I swear somebody was throwing rocks in the river at 2 a.m. that one night. But I was spooked because a helicopter I thought he was searching for a prison inmate. I was spooked out that night. Helicopter kept searching us with the spotlight.
Right on you guys.
Like around the river.
Yeah.
Now there is an airport, Smithfield, they're close.
Yeah.
But why would a helicopter in the middle of the country? Anyway. And John, who's, ex-military, sleeping with a gun on him, he's like dead asleep. Like, Brian, this is like, I've slept through worse. Like,
Just go to bed.
Yeah, dude, chill out. But anyway, it was a cool night. We cooked, campfire night and all that stuff. Because other times of the trip, we really stayed in people's homes.
Yeah.
And cranked up that next morning, cooked yourself breakfast, and John brought, every day we brought way too much food.
Yeah.
Me and you talk about it. We brought way too much food, way too many clothes, way overpacked. The boat was packed, 250 pounds of stuff. We probably should only had 50 pounds. And we met my dad at the boat ramp, and we switched motors. Now, we took our time because we wanted to film. We were trying to film as much stuff.
Yeah.
I had a production company give me all these GoPros to film all this stuff. And anyway, we changed the motors out to a prop, and then we probably hit every rock between Smithfield and Columbus. I mean, we bent the prop shaft one way, we bent it the next way. That night, we made it to LaGrange, to my high school buddy's place. He picked us up on his four-wheeler at the sandbar, which was, that was cool. I met him in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like, I can remember the day I met one of my best friends, growing up. And to do this trip when you're, I don't know how old it was then, 40 or 39 or 38, whatever. And we go have dinner with him and his kids, and just hang out at his place. I took my prop to his shop, his barn, and like grinded it out because it was dinged. A stainless steel prop was dinged up.
Yeah.
Tried to bend the prop shaft the next morning, straighter. It didn't work, but somewhere between LaGrange and Columbus, I hit something else and actually bent it straight. Like, because it was wobbling so much. It's like, I'm going to lose this lower unit.
Yeah.
The bearings are just going to go.
Oh, yeah.
But somewhere around Columbus, like, the vibration just went away. Well, from Columbus down was it was deep enough. There were some places, but deep enough where we could drift through those or not really hit anything. But I wish we had the jet, because when we got to Garwood, we tried to walk it down the dam, and we should have unloaded the boat. There's all kind of things we should have done. But the train, we walked it down, bow forward, transom downstream, and it caught a rock. And we had about 7 cameras going.
Yeah.
And neither John and I ever looked at those cameras. The video,
Still have it?
I can't.
Yeah.
I think I deleted it. Kayla looked at it. She was like, "You stupid," because I jumped in the water to push the boat off. I could have been pinned and like dumb stuff.
Yeah.
I had anxiety attacks about that for years, not years, but a while.
Yeah.
Just because once she told me what she told me, and then I started thinking about it, about me dying, almost dying over a stupid
about the
boat.
situation. Yeah.
But but it sank, pointing bow up to or upstream, or not really upstream, but up the bank. And I text Kayla. I think I called my dad just to let them know, because they knew. My dad was like, "Don't, just pull out of the boat.
Just go
ramp.
around it." Yeah.
Yeah, let's go around it, Brian. I'm like, I got this, dude.
I can do this.
And so he knew something was wrong, because I had moved my pins right on the side of the river too, not in the river or whatever. The LCRA guy was in a meeting in Austin, and he knew after 30 minutes. He's like, "Brian, I knew something was up." So when I called him and texted him, pretty quick, his first thing was, "Is the boat pointed to a tree?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." He goes, "Good. I'll bring some come-alongs, and we can come-along it out, winch it up."
Just drag it out, yeah.
And I was like, "Dude, just bring a boat from downstream. We'll just pull it out backward." Because it didn't, sink all the way.
Yeah.
Because it's so shallow.
Yeah.
The motor never went under. The bill just pumping water in the air. The bow, the gas tank was so empty. I mean, we had a full tank, but the second tank was empty because we're going to get fuel in Wharton. I couldn't get the fuel. All our gear we just threw on the bank.
Yeah, just got it out of there.
Some things I never found. They floated away. But everything we could. I mean, John had rods and reels that his military buddies built for him, and so it was sentimental stuff. We got out of the boat, and then I tried to get that fuel tank out, but it was so much air, and I couldn't get it out of the front.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it was pointing up, and about that time, I was like, you know what? I just need a tractor.
Yeah.
I was like, so who owns this land? So I found out who owned the land. Called his office. He didn't answer. And his admin was like, after the third or fourth time calling and asking for this gentleman, she's like, dude, not dude, like, sir, can I help you?
Yeah.
I was like, look, this is really stupid. But I sank my boat at the dam of y'all's land. I would just like to see if y'all had the tractor, if the keys are in it, and there's chains, I know how to run a tractor. Get this out. She goes, let me give you the ranch manager's phone number. So I call him. He's like, can I help you? I'm like, this sounds stupid. But I sank a boat down at the dam.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, it is kind of
stupid.
Well, his first thing was, what are you even doing down there, dude?
Yeah.
Like, son.
Yeah,
he was like,
son.
more son. I mean, so I told her, I was like, look, if you could get down here with a tractor, just let me borrow one, point me to the direction or where, if there's a barn on this place, And he's like, look, I'm working cows. When I get done, I'll come down there. I said, look, bring a tractor. Does it have a front end loader? He said, yes, sir, it does. I said, if you got 60 foot of chain, we're golden. He's like, all right. So he shows up on an ATV side by side with a young lady who's holding a baby. It ended up being his daughter and his granddaughter, and they're all wearing spurs. Like, they really were cowboying that day.
Yeah.
And he gets out, and I show him all this, and I tell him, over the phone, I told him my last name because we had family in the area. My dad ranched and knew people. So he knew my dad, he knew my uncle. And I think that's what won him over to come help me.
Yeah.
And I just threw my name out, But he didn't tell me when he showed up with his daughter and his granddaughter that one of his helpers was coming with the tractor. I think he was just like, I'm going to mess with this dude. And he's looking at it, he's like, yeah, you got a real big problem here. I was like, man, I'm all MacGyver. Like, if we do this... By the time I hear the tractor coming, and then he kind of looks at me and kind of grins like, I got you, boy, So his helper shows up, and he's like, all right, Brian. He patted me on the back. He said, he's yours. There's a chain. We ain't touching your boat or anything. So I hook everything up, and I tell the guy, look here, we already found a bunch of driftwood and some stuff to kind of get, because there's a lot of rocks there that would just really scar and dent up. So we got those laid out. And we hooked up on it. I was like, man, there was a lot of water pressure pushing on us. Like, we're going to pull it up. This boat's either just going to crank, and I'm going to pull out the motor and a bunch of scrap aluminum, or I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And, man, he lifted, and that boat just lifted up. Almost started floating. Kind of, there was water in the back, so he pulls it up where the water is still draining out of the back up over the back deck, and I pull the plug, and I'm sitting there like, we can put this in and keep going. And we cranked the motor up. Everything ran. We got fuel. He's like, all right, Brian, what do you want to do? I said, I think we can put it back in. He's like, no, man. I think you need to get this out of here.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So we sat there for a little bit, looked at John, and he's like, man, this guy came to help us. Let's don't put him in more bind. Because if we put back in and sink it again, then he's there. He's going to have to help us. And I was like, you know what? I said, I call my dad. He'll be here in 45 minutes or 30 minutes because they happen to live that far away. So Dad said, I'm on the way. I know he knew
exactly,
pasture. He knew how to get there. I mean, that's just, small town folk. And about that time, the LCRA guy showed up. He already had his guy coming. Yeah. But the guy took a wrong turn because there's so much property. And the guy came from Austin. And I think he beat my dad or got there about the same time Dad is, just to kind of see everything. And when he got there, he knew everything was cool. But yeah, we put it on the trailer, and then it scratched a few things, dented the bottom a little bit. Got home, or got to my parents, put the plug in it. Yeah. Put about 6 inches of water in the boat to test for leaks or holes. Yeah. Until I heard the axle, the first 2 creaks. Yeah. I was like, we got no holes. Pull the plug, drain the water, and we were on the river the next morning. So, and then we got to the coast, and it was just bad weather. South wind, 20 miles an hour. We tried to fish south shoreline. The marshes were muddy. Woke up in Sargent at my buddy's house the next day. It was norther blew in. Yeah. So just complete opposite. Everything was muddy in East Matagorda Bay. So we said, let's just go to Bayou Vista where we're at right now. Yep. So we drove the boat from Sargent all the way to our house, and my wife lifted us up in the lift. So we went from Austin to
All the way
Garwood
up
Dam, went to Bay City. So we were going to pull out at Wharton anyway, so we
Yeah.
skipped 45 river miles. But yeah, it was a cool trip.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might.
I would like to do that one again with the river skiff though,
Yeah.
and really fish.
Let me know.
Yeah,
I'll ride along if you got room for one more.
yeah, that'd be a fun one.
That would be fun. No, and then you didn't do the border to buy
So the next year, the same thing happened, or the same time frame was like, now let's do something else. Let's
Yeah.
do Border to Bayou. So it was my idea with John, and then another boat joined us. The idea, Owen and Alex, and then that was about the time. I think that's right when I left Kinder Morgan. I started helping my wife with her sea deck company and doing Sabine. So it was like more of a full-time job. And I was like, guys, I can't be away for
Yeah.
a week. You know, we're running our 2 growing businesses.
Yep.
You know, it's put out at swim time,
yeah.
So I was
You got a lot
like,
going
I'm
on.
going to help manage this. We'll do this. I'll help y'all where I can. And obviously you're running Sabines or whatever, but it wasn't really, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it wasn't ever for publicity, but it was a paid trip that you got to do, almost a once in a lifetime deal
Right.
that the company paid for and whatever. So, they got to do it and I didn't, but then I was the nervous guy because they shared each boat shared their location. So, every day I'm looking at work on their phone going, man, I bet they're catching fish right there. Or, now they're running across the sketchiest bay in Texas for this trip. Mm-hmm. And then one of them's, dot doesn't move for an hour. And I'm like, he sank his boat.
Oh, no.
And then, 5 minutes later, then it updates and boom, he's where he needs to be or whatever, and so, yeah. And then another Skiff customer just started flying airplanes. And in Port O'Connor, we dropped the Yeti Panga bag full of like Zumo Boudin and
Whataburger.
Yeah, Whataburger, Lone Star beer, a turtle box. Nothing made it but about 3 Lone Stars. I mean, they were all of them just the Zumos and sausage made it, but they were just like so tenderized. The poor turtle box, nothing would have survived that. The Panga, the bag held up, the zipper popped open.
Yeah.
I mean, it bounced 4 times and it didn't explode. I was like, wow, it made it. And they got there
They got to it.
Yeah, and the zipper just pulled open. So their Whataburger was soggy. But anyway, so that was.
He probably ate it anyways, didn't he?
Yeah, they took a few bites because they were hungry for it. And we circled the plane back and went to the airport and jumped in a little courtesy car and had dinner with them. Bought them dinner that night. But that was it was cool publicity.
Yeah.
I won't call it a stunt, but I guess it was a stunt. But it was fun to throw something out of an airplane to your buddies.
Yeah, no,
Anybody can do that any day of the week.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody go do that.
No, I had talked to
fun.
Owen a little bit before that happened about trying to tag along, but I ended up being at work.
Yeah.
No, and it's definitely been stuff like that. It's been
That's
a lot
a trip.
of inspiration.
I want to make that trip. Owen and
Yeah.
I both talked about it when the carbon comes out. Let's just take a week and vacation.
Yeah.
We've done it before. He's done it. So we know where to spend time, where not to spend time. And we might pull it off, but then by then my wife's probably gonna be like, "You're taking me on vacation, boy." So we'll see. We'll see what Kayler wants to do.
Yeah.
But that would be a cool one to do.
That'd be cool to do.
Yeah.
I remember watching that Border to Bayou trip, and it was a big inspiration for a lot of what I'm doing now and a lot of what I wanted to start doing.
And that was a point of all of it. Was one, me and my friends, whoever went with me, was got to have a trip we're going to tell our friends and talk about for a long time.
Sure.
2, yes, we did it in Sabine Skiffs, so we could, could write off a trip and do it. But you know what I mean? I mean, it was a vacation but it's publicity. But the cool thing with technology today is you got to share it with people, live.
Yep.
Like, this is where we are today. Now, a lot of the Border to Bayou is so hard, and even the river trip, because you're either running When you're running on plane, well, the guy in the front who's not driving, well, he can video stuff, but there's only so much of the river that's fun to watch live on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And then you don't have a lot of good cell phone service, you know, where it's cool fishing.
Oh, I know.
Or you're fishing and you're too busy fishing to show people. And, you know, that's what a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you fish for a week there? Well, because I can't take a month vacation.
Yeah.
Like you, and neither can you. You know what I mean? They think we're, you know, we're not celebrities or high paid individuals.
Right.
We work probably as hard or harder than you do, you know? So, but the fishing time of these, because every day, if you're doing a 7-day trip, like the river trip or even Border to Bayou, it was 60 to 80 miles or 90 miles that you had to make a day.
Yeah.
That's a lot of skiff driving.
Yeah.
And then to fish, so, you know, you don't have but 3 to 4 hours a day to fish.
Right.
And when do you fish? So you're looking at, you know, feeding times, weather,
right,
conditions of wherever you are,
right,
you know, whatever. And it's hard to consistently catch fish on that trip. Now, Owen and Brandon did pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean, so did the other skiffs, you know, so did, I'm blanking on their name. Anyway. Kinsel and, sorry. I'm going to blank on people's names here. But, yeah, you know, it's hard to consistently catch fish for 7 days in a new base system every day when you have 3 to 4 hours of fish.
Yeah.
So when me and you talked about the trip you're thinking about doing, I was like, that's what you need to focus on.
Yeah.
Alex and Kinsel, they did pretty good. I mean, they around Corpus and Port Connor caught a lot of good fish.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hard thing to do. And then the last day, which was cool, they pulled up to my dock.
Yeah.
On Border to Bayou, tied off. We had a little party on the dock. Alex's parents came, you know, because they drove in from Houston. And Owen's dad and uncle actually drove them to South Padre, so they got to spend a night with family.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I jumped in the first river skiff with a friend from the house on the Border to Bayou and drove through Port Arthur, or drove to Orange, Texas.
I got you. And
that day we fished for 30 minutes. I mean, we fished that morning.
For 30 minutes. Yeah.
For pretty much 30 minutes.
That's a long run from
And then
here.
we just ran. And we stopped.
Yeah.
One of my buddies brought us lunch at a ranch that he worked on the side of the Intercoastal. So we stopped and fished with him and caught some redfish and some gar and whatever. And then, but the rest of the trip, we were just running. I mean, we did stop in Orange. Another one of my friends was at a sandbar with his family. We just pulled in a sandbar off the Sabine River and swam for about 30 minutes and hung out with them. And yeah, I mean, yes, we build fishing boats, but you got to experience it all.
Oh,
you know, especially on these trips. You know?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the last things, and we'll see how our live session's doing, but one of the things that I'm trying to start asking everybody, because I'm still working on getting this podcast down to how I want it, but one of the questions that I want to start asking everybody is, if you could fish anywhere, if you go anywhere in the world and fish, where would you go?
How many days do I have to do this?
As many days as you need.
So, they just released it. Fisher's playing with their toys. Come here, Fish. But I've seen the previews of it on the fly fishing film tour this year. Some guys, I think they rented a catamaran sailing cat.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
so,
I saw that preview.
I want, and this will probably happen.
Yeah.
But Kayla and I, when we're to that level of our life, we're gonna buy a sailing cat.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna build my own tender dinghy for it, which is gonna be Skiff.
Nothing less.
And I don't want to go to really South America other than to fish for some of the tarpon that are down there that are really potentially untouched. You know, I'm not gonna say they're untouched because none of the fish really is these days with technology. But I would like to do that. But I can just picture myself anchored up because there are some islands and sandbars that form and deform.
Yep.
But some unnamed
just
island in the middle of the Bahamas. Getting out, catching bonefish that can be the easiest fish to catch. It can be the hardest, but you wait. You either pull in a skiff or I pull my little homemade tender by myself. I like fishing by myself a lot, and just walking, catching, and then going back to the tender. Kaler has lunch fixed already. We sit there and eat conch salad or whatever he did,
Whatever it is,
and then have a little drink or so or whatever, some coffee for breakfast, and then. But yeah, I think that would be the one thing right now. I'm not a big tarpon guy or, anywhere in the States. There's some freshwater stuff. I want to swing for some steelhead.
Yeah.
I really want to do that, but it's cold. I don't like that. In the Bahamas, you got nothing but
Texas.
Barefoot wading on a sand flat.
The number of times
off of your sailboat
that I've been on the ship that I work on. And we got charts for all over the world, and I've just sat there and looked at charts and been like, man, I bet no one's ever tried to fish that atoll.
Well, we started this scheme. It was an idea. It was right when Sabine started. I had foot surgery. I had my foot messed up on me, so we couldn't go on a European vacation with Kaler's parents and brother-in-law. Her dad was working in Germany at the time. And that's how we ended up on John's boat. Yeah. Because we skipped his vacation. We, made some posts on Facebook about it. And he messaged me. He's like, dude, come spend a week with me and my wife. Yeah. So when we went on his sailboat and saw the possibilities of going where you want, when you want. Yeah. And she'll be done a little bit. But the sailing experience with your own poling skiff tender,
that would be awesome.
Would be pretty right. Yeah. You go at your own pace.
Dude, that would be.
Let the wind take you where it's going to take you.
I definitely have had dreams about jumping on a sailboat and just sailing around to fly fish forgotten atolls and barren islands and stuff.
I think I would push it a little further than Kaler would as far as where to go, and some of the different islands around the world that are really unsafe. Yeah. I would be the one that pushes there. Yeah, yeah. She probably wouldn't want to go, but there's some places that
I've got a friend sketchy, of mine that's in the middle right now of solo sailing around the world, and she's already been beaten up and mugged once. But yeah,
I have friends that have got knives pulled on them. Yeah, bone fishing in Mexico and.
Is she pointing right now?
No.
Sorry. We're watching the bird dog hunt flies.
Go over.
All right, so we got about 19 people on our Instagram live right now. So if you guys are watching on Instagram live right now,
Sabine Skiffs, yeah. What are you? We got any questions? Anybody out there?
Yeah, if you guys listening on the live feed, if you guys got any questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Where the heck are you at? Australia? What's it?
Let's see. We'll see if any roll in real quick. We'll give you guys a few minutes.
Let's see what this is.
There's a delay.
Yeah, there is. Carbon at the fishing show.
Ooh.
Won't make that schedule.
No.
We're going to, yeah. It's going to be close. I have a feeling that we're going to be rigging. Nah, we're not going to make it.
No.
Not even going to say it. I don't think we'll even be in the rigging stage. So, unfortunately not. I know we talked about this gentleman that just posted that. Me and him talked about it last year because it was going there and then. But, about second and third quarter of last year, Q2, Q3, the labor issues really hurt our vendors. That was helping us get the plugs going to get the molds. Built, so we had to punt and switch teams. Yeah. And luckily, I have business relationships with good teams, but they even don't have the labor force, to get me where I need to get quick enough. But
they need demos coming up near San Antonio.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we can do that. Not really near San Antonio. We're going to be in the end of this month, the end of February, we're going to be at Trout Fest. Yep. It's our first year to ever go to Trout Fest. We're going to highlight a river skiff. We're going to be inside the tent. Yep. We'll have a river skiff there that has oars set up, has a 60-40 Tohatsu jet tiller boat. It lives not far from there, catches a lot of big bass close to there. So if you want a demo in San Antonio, we have a river skiff and a jet, or we can just set you up with a guide, Randy, and just do it that way as far as a demo. I do less and less. It's crazy. When we started, I was demoing a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, we do less and less demos every year because, guides have boats. You've demoed somebody for me and sold that guy. So
I ran into him at the dog park. Like, he's like, man, I bought that Skiff.
His was the one that had the maroon powder coat that got delayed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, poor guy. Was an awesome gentleman to deal with and do work for, but
that's on that point of the demos though, that's one of the things that I'd like to speak to with Sabine is that you and Kaylor have built around these skiffs is, obviously they're a fantastic skiff, but one of the things that I really started to fall in love when I fell in love with these skiffs is the fact that like you don't just build like, here's your skiff, see ya. Like you have like a whole family.
So that's when you're, take notes, people wanting to build a brand, but when you're as small as we are, building such a unique product, and maybe it was because I had a family growing up and that's how we hung out together and all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, we have the Sabine Cup every year. We've donated, last year we gave some money to a family, that was in need. That was in the fly fishing community. This year, we're going to give a young male and a young female a Texas lifetime hunting and fishing license. I'm waiting for our rulers to get in and our Yeti cups to get in before I kind of debut who won and the rules for this next year and why we're going to do what we're going to do for this next year. But yeah, I mean, we have a Sabine Skiff dove hunt that if you hunt or you're old school customer, you get invited to. Unfortunately, we can't invite everybody because it's a limited facility. We usually have a Christmas party at our house and we cook. We didn't have it this year because of some unforeseen circumstances. But yeah, I mean, I think you need that feeling, Fowler, that's not our fault. Now, Fowler, let me know. Yeah. I think you need to go poll Pete around.
Yeah.
Put him on some of those sheephead.
Yeah. Dude, he needs to show. I need to figure the sheep's head out. You got baby tarpon hanging around.
Yeah. Go deal with that. But yeah, that's
no, it's something I definitely love about the whole brand, and I mean that was one of the things like, so I when I fished Baracho, that I picked up on is like, because I knew the guys I was fishing with because I'd met them that day, and I knew my one buddy I was staying with, and I think another buddy, but then like, I came over, I saw you, I came over, said hi, and then it was just immediately like all the Sabine guys.
Yeah, I hate it. I kind of like it, but kind of hate it.
Yeah, no,
it's like the Sabine. That's the Sabine posse over there.
Sabine posse over there. But it was nice. But it was cool though for me.
We're friends with everybody.
It was cool for me because I didn't know a lot of people, and all those guys were just like, man, come hang out.
And I hope we're not building a clique. Or a rude type. And I hope other people out there that look at our customers aren't, well, those Sabiners do this and they do that and they're rude. Hopefully that's not the vibe we're putting out on the water. I don't think it is because of the reaction I'm getting from other people. That's in the industry, or that's the fishes, or that's at the boat ramp, or that's got pulled in or saved or whatever by a Sabine customer. But yeah, if you own a Sabine, don't be a prick. Be nice to everybody. What's he say? I'm getting one built without even getting a
Skiff.
Bug. That's what I'm talking about. That's how awesome it is. He is. We're about to start Bug Skiff in a month.
What's he getting?
He's getting a versatile
tunnel.
I don't remember. No, I think we're gonna go over his build tomorrow, but I think it's a non-tunnel. It's Louisiana. Oh, no, he is getting a tunnel. But yeah, he's a tunnel hole, side console. We've been texting throughout the day. But so what I do, it's funny that I brought this up. I used to could meet with the customer the week before we start your build. Now I have to do it like months ahead of time to make sure I have all these materials. And I do. I meet with a customer because you quote these people 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, whatever. And we go over his build or her build. And bug, no tunnel. Come on, no. Anyway, so we go over their build, and right then I pretty much know my long lead times right now, or I think I do, even though they will change. But we go over basic stuff.
Yeah.
Because colors can change this, but you're either tunnel, non-tunnel, tiller, not stuff like that, and go through that. But I've had to change my schedule. If you looked at it as a project manager, of how I build these skips because of the delays and everything else. But so how many Sabines have we put out to date? I can't say exactly because we've put out over 100. We're right at 100.
Yeah, I think mine was
small.
Mine was in the 60s.
Yeah, we're small. I mean, there's guys that launch a skiff or a boat company, not a skiff company, or a skiff company too, and they're building. They got 24 on order. Yeah. And I never want to build more than one a week. Yeah. That's 52 a year, but you're not going to work, every year, week of the year. That's just the size of company I want to build, or that I want to
keep it small. But I know
you got to keep it we're a niche product. We want to be custom to semi-custom to some extent, and we want to be just have that relationship with the customer, and you can't do that when you're building 200 skiffs a year or 100 skiffs a year. No, so definitely. In my opinion, you can. Tips for getting the wife's approval. There you go.
Tips for getting the wife's approval to start a build.
Oh, any tips? I thought you were like wanting me to tip you. I'm like, heck yeah, send that deposit.
How do we get?
So the biggest thing. So I hope this gentleman doesn't. I hope I'm not throwing him under the bus, but I met a guy recently. I'm not going to say how or whatever, but we have a lot of stuff in common with hunting and dogs and stuff. Yeah. And we demoed years ago, and they had a set budget. Yeah. I was over their budget. And him and his wife set this budget together, right? Yep. Him and his wife set this budget together. So he had to stick with his budget. Right. And since we were over it, they went a different route. But yet he didn't want the route he's going. So he's having to buy something he doesn't want. Now, how often do you do that? Like, it sucks, but sometimes you can't afford this on a menu, so you have to get the chicken salad and just eat it to survive. So me and him talked about it, and a lot of times we get this where my wife, I got a question the other day, can we pull a tuber hooked up to your transom straps? And yes, because I've pulled myself, but yeah, I mean, kids want to go tubing. Everybody has, most families have kids. Most mamas want to take their kids. If your wife, depending on your budget, I would not get a micro, because
if you got a family,
there's people that got out of micros, they loved it. Yeah, the dude who fished in the micro loved it. Yeah, but when his wife got on the boat, or their children, it was overloaded, or they couldn't go to the sandbar, they couldn't do this. So then it's not a family boat. Right. Where versatile, they can at least go run a Sunday beach. They can go hang out at Rockport, whatever the beach is there, or like I said, in the river of Sabine, you can
go out to the sandbar. Your family. Yeah.
So I would look toward the versatile. I would look toward a console. Resale value. Yeah. I would almost bet it's either 90 to 100% of our customers have broke even or made money if they knew what they were doing when they sold the boat, or they asked for my help. I also have a policy. I'll help you sell your boat if you're putting a deposit down on another Sabine. Yeah. But if you're not, I can only help a certain extent. Yeah. And the only reason I do that is because I got burned too many times where I helped this guy so much. And then, he went dead on someone within that customer, or potential customers mad at me because they can't get a hold of this guy who's trying to sell his boat. Gotcha, yeah. So I'm stuck. I'm the middleman that gets mad, so that's why I created that own policy. But I had one customer who, if he sold his Sabine so cheap, I would have bought it, because I could have turned around the next day and made $5,000 on it. And the customer that did that he made more than that, but after using it a year.
After
But
using it,
resale
yeah.
value is huge.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, I
And-
think I could get my money out of
Yeah,
mine right
I mean,
now.
I've had a gentleman today said, "Is there any used versatiles on the market?" I know of one, and I don't even know if that guy wants to sell it anymore. Like I don't know. I know of two micros that both of them are just in life. They're in the point of their life where they just cannot have a boat anymore. Or they don't need one because of certain circumstances that come up. And there is going to be one versatile who, again, his whole life made a change. I mean, he's moving halfway across the U.S.
Yeah.
That he cannot use a flats
right.
boat. So, but yeah, I mean, resale value, get a versatile so families can fish and hunt and go to the sandbar and, hook an inner tube up to it and pull Jimmy down the river or Jamie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that'd be the.
If I was going to give a quick tip for convincing your wife, one of the things that I would say towards a boat is that
she doesn't have to make dinner for like a month. I'm just kidding. We don't make our wives cook dinner.
No, I cook for her all the time. No, I would say though that safety, 100%. Yeah. Like one day when I have kids and they get to the age that it's time for them to. Oh, we ran out of time. One day when I have kids and they get to the age that they want to go out on their own, they don't want dad involved. Like I'd feel 100% comfortable.
So
that boat clears water so fast. I know that it can take. I've slid it across rocks. I've slid it across oysters. I've slid it.
And it can handle a chop. So many people are like, "How does it handle 2-foot chop?"
Yeah.
My first response is it handles 2-foot chop like a skiff that drafts in 6 inches of water. They don't handle it very well, but it'll handle it at 18 to 20 miles per hour.
Yeah.
I recently had a gentleman who bought a used Sabine. It was a micro, but he sold a high-end composite skiff.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want his kids to beat up his high-end composite skiff.
He would be
the carbon fiber guy that was like, bro, I don't need that carbon fiber Sabine. I need the aluminum version. Because he wanted his young kids to learn to learn to run the boat, but he didn't want them messing up an $80,000 XYZ boat that wasn't one of ours.
But, I can tell you right now, I've got a plan in the back of my head that if I got a couple kids that are die hard, we want to go fishing all the time, you might get a micro out of me.
Exactly.
Because I mean, if I was
get them the aluminum version.
Oh yeah.
Then, Daddy gets the carbon version. Because everybody has $150,000 to spend on boats. Anyway,
all right, guys.
Anything else? I don't think anybody's any more questions. No, they're done.
No, they're done.
Ready for us to get out of here.
Yeah. Hey guys, thank you everyone that tuned in on Instagram Live. Thank you guys for the questions. Thank you guys for following along. I know we lost some people earlier. If you're not already, you should be following Sabine Skiffs on Instagram. Check out the boats on their website. You got a bunch of fishing shows you're going to be at soon, right?
Yep. Trout Fest in New Braunfels in this month of February. We're going to Houston Fishing Show after that. Mm-hmm. It's either in March or April. They changed the date so much I can't keep it memorized. Yeah, those are our big two coming up. And then, guys, anybody wants to demo, no matter where you are in the U.S., at least ask.
Yeah.
I just got a deposit mailed to me from a gentleman from Florida who he demoed through another guy in Florida.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, like when I wanted to demo, Matt, I went out with Matt Lowe.
Yeah,
and that's what I tell guys. If you message me on the Skiff Wanderer, I'm gonna tell you start talking to Brian, and there's a pretty good chance that Brian's gonna call me and then be like, hey,
if I can't do it because of location.
Yeah,
I'll try to find a guide in the area,
yep.
So at least he can make money and get paid. And usually a guide's good because the person doing the demo, although they're paying for a guided trip, you get 8 hours to pick brains, to really fish
and see it,
and then but you're fishing, so you're having fun and getting pulled around. But if not, I do have customers spread out that have told me that aren't getting paid. They're just genuinely nice guys like Peter. Like, just let me know, and if I'm in town or if I can have the time, we'll meet up.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the Sabine family that we've built.
Yep, definitely.
Yep.
So, again, thank you guys. If you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, Google, please leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you, everyone, for joining along with us tonight. We really appreciate it. See y'all next time.
I'm going to keep going. Carlos just asked, how many Sabines have we put a surface drive on? We cannot put surface drives on Sabine because I signed an agreement with one of my past business partners that I bought out.
Oh, really?
That I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of margin in those the motors anyway, so I don't want to mess with them and the controversy of surface drives. But
yeah.
2 customers have put surface drives on their Sabines on their own time. But they're slow. They're like low 22 to 25 mile per hour, and they're heavy.
Is that just the drive? Just the way the drive's set up?
It's the way they're set up. It's the way we build our transoms for outboards.
Yeah.
Not for surface
Not
drive.
for
The
surface.
angle's very similar.
I imagine it
But height is a little bit off. There's a trick to it. And because there's a trick to it, I'm not going to get into it because of the agreement, and I'm going to stand by my agreement with my buddy. But it's no hard feelings with that gentleman. It was just part of it when we, he went his way, I went my way.
You don't need a surface drive anyways.
Yeah. Just
if
you want a surface drive, you'll have to purchase it and install it yourself. We'll do everything else.
Yeah.
And then they're slow heavy, but they are good for, grassy situations and stuff like that. But yeah.
I haven't found anything
hope that answers your question, Carlos.
I can tell you with a tunnel hole, jack plate, and trim tabs, I haven't found anything that is too skinny.
Very seldom. I mean, we have the customer that runs his surface drive a lot in Florida did it because he put $8,000 of damage in his existing polling skiff that he still has. And it wasn't, the surface drive had nothing to do with the damage. He hit a coral rock that ripped his composite skiff apart.
Yeah.
But it did mess up his lower unit.
Right.
Where a surface drive would have just kicked up.
Yeah.
So that's been beneficial to him because since then he's hit rocks and it's just kicked up. He got a versatile with a 3/16 bottom, things like that. The other gentleman that has a surface drive is here local, fishes a lot of oysters, come out of a surface drive, square nose boat, and this guy's fly fished all over the world. So when I made a no-hull slab aluminum boat, like he was in.
He wanted it.
Yeah, because his aluminum surface drive boat had a hull slab. And so he got the same speed and performance, but a better polling boat.
Yeah.
But it's still loaded 22, 23 mile per hour boat,
Does that the surface drives doesn't make a problem when you're polling?
I mean, it is heavier. They're like 290 pounds.
Yeah.
Where your motor and jack plate is 250. It's a little bit different. So that's the last question I see.
Sweet.
All right, guys, we're gonna get out of here. It is it's 9:30 Texas time. We might go hit some lights.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's go fishing.
Hit some lights. Let me look outside. Yeah, we'll go hit some lights.
We're gonna go fishing. See you guys.
See y'all later.